Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupa Rashatarashatashmad Shila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj Shila Gurudev Ki Jai. Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupa Rashatarashatashmad Shila Bhaktivedanta Vamana Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupa Rashatarashatashmad Shila Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Shila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupa Rashatarashatashmad Shila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Nitila Pravishtam Vishnupara Shatarashatashmad Shila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nitila Pravishta Maha-Bhagavat Shila Goksharas Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Nitila Pravishta Shila Satchitaranda Bhakti Vinod Thakur Ki Jai. Nitila Pravishta Vaishnav Sarva Bhauma Shila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Shri Rupa Gauriya Guru Varga Ki Jai. Shri Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jeev Gopal Patadasha Gunath Shard Gosai Prabhu Ki Jai. Shri Sarup Damodar Rai Ramanandari Shri Gopal Shad Vrinda Ki Jai. Nama Chay Shri Ras Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Kshetra Mandala Gora Mandala Vraja Mandala Mathura Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Sarva Abhishta Bharata Giriraj Maharaj Ki Jai. Shri Radha Kund Shama Koni Munaganga Tulsi Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Samagata Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Anada Akarashi Titi Ki Jai. Akarashi Titi Palan Kari Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Grantaraj Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam Ki Jai. Shinitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bo. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Radhikaya Priyatmane Shri Śrīmad-Bhakti Vedanta Narayaniti Namine. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Śrīmate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratishe Namaha. Guruve Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Tadalai Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tarbhaktaya Namo Namaha. Yam pravrajantam anupetam apeta krityam dvaipayano virahakatara ajuhava putreti tanmayataya taravo bhinedustam sarvabhuta hridayam munimanatosmi. Narayanam namaskrityam naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayamudiraye. Shrinvatang svakata Krishna punya shavana kirtana hritantasto yabhadrani vidhunoti suritsatam nashta prayeshvavadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttamashloke bhaktir bhavati naishtaki tavaivasmi na jivami tvaya vina Iti vigyaya radhe tvam nayamam charanantikam bhakta vihina aparada lakshay kshiptashtakama ditaranga madhye kripa mai tvam sharanam prapanna namaste charanaravindam. Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Haribo, Vipul Prabhu, and Rupmanjari Didi, Madhavi Didi, Raseshwari Mataji, Mantramurti Mataji, Indira Mataji in the future. Dandavat pranams, everybody. Haribo. Wonder where Ganga Didi is today. Alright, so yesterday, what did we read from yesterday? Let me just see in our group, Daily Bhagavatam group. We read 22 to 35 yesterday. So in the previous chapter, Parikshit Maharaj asks Sukadeva Goswami about what was the Yamaraja's reaction to this whole incident. And so then Sukadeva Goswami explains the Yamaduta's questions about the Supreme Controller. They asked how many controllers exist, and if there's disagreement among multiple Supreme Controllers, then that will create confusion. There must be one Supreme Controller, and we thought that Supreme Controller was you. But your orders were transgressed by the Vishnu Dutas. And then Yamaraj explains the position of the Supreme Controller, the devotees, and Bhagavat Dharma. He says, there is one Supreme Controller, and no one can understand him. And then he tells the qualities of the Vishnu Dutas. Real religious principles are enacted by the Lord. The 12 Mahajans know the Bhagavat Dharma. And then, this is from what we read from yesterday, Yamaraj glorifies the process of chanting. So let's go down to that part. 22. Yamaraj glorifies the process of chanting. Etavan eva lokesmin pungsam dharma parasmrita bhakti yogo bhagavati tan nama grahanadhibhi. It's an important shloka. The ultimate religious principle for the living entity in human society is pure devotional service unto the Lord, beginning with chanting of His holy name. Note, Bhakti Yoga mentioned in this verse is that which is pure, unmixed with the modes, and the Abhideya Tattva of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Link. There is no need to search for a proof. Ajamil is the direct example. Verse 23. Just see the glory of chanting the Lord's holy name. Even sinful Ajamil was delivered from the ropes of death by chanting Narayana. Now here's a link between verse 22, this verse, Pure Bhakti is Parodharma, and verse 24. Does Tanama Grahana Dibhi imply that sins are destroyed only through the many processes of bhakti and not only chanting once? Wait. Oh, because it says Adhibi, so it says chanting the holy name and so on? I think so. Yeah, because it says beginning with the chanting of His holy name. So does that mean you have to do chanting once? And even improper chanting is sufficient. Chanting the holy names, qualities, and pastimes of the Lord is sufficient to relieve one of all sin. Even attentive or proper pronunciation is not necessary if one chants without offenses. Sinful Ajamil called out his son Narayan while dying and still attained liberation.
Link: if the highest success is easily achieved by chanting the holy name, why don't the learned teach this, but teach and perform karma yoga? Bewildered philosophers whose minds are made dull by the Lord's Maya and are engaged in Vedic rituals cannot understand bhakti, the confidential religious system of the 12 Mahajans. Therefore, intelligent people wholeheartedly take to devotional service. They are beyond my jurisdiction for punishment. Even if they happen to commit sin, they are protected by chanting Hare Krishna. The Yamadutas never approach devotees. The narrations of devotees are sung by demigods and siddhas. Devotees have proper conduct, equal vision, and are fully surrendered unto the Lord. Please do not approach them, since they are always protected by the Lord's club. Lord Brahma, I, and even the time factor cannot punish them. Link: after warning the Yamadutas to never approach the devotees, Yamaraj now indicates who is to be brought before him for punishment. Only non-devotees are punished by Yamaraj. Bring to me for punishment the non-devotees who are averse to the taste of the honey of Lord Mukunda's lotus feet, who do not associate with Paramahamsas detached from material life, and who enjoy household life and worldly enjoyment, the path leading to hell. Bring those who have never served Vishnu. Bring those whose tongues never chant the names and qualities of the Lord, whose hearts never remember his lotus feet, who never bow down their heads even once to Lord Krishna. Bring such non-devotees who never perform any duties towards Lord Vishnu. Okay, Raseshwari Mataji. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, so now here's a link from verse 22 to 24. Yamaraj, considering himself and his servants to be offenders, begged forgiveness from the Supreme Lord. Please forgive us, O Lord Narayan. Because of our ignorance, we improperly treated Ajamil, your devotee. We improperly treated Ajamil. We dealt with him in an improper way, your devotee, and thus committed a great offense. Shukadeva Goswami glorifies the process of chanting. Chanting of Lord Vishnu's holy name is the ultimate atonement for all sinful activities and the most auspicious activity for the whole world. The purifying potency of bhakti versus rituals. One who constantly hears and chants Lord Hari's wonderful activities can easily counteract sin. The heart is purified only by bhakti and not by observing vows and Vedic rituals. Devotees never again take to material activities. Devotees who always lick honey from Krishna's lotus feet Devotees who always lick honey from Krishna's lotus feet do not again enjoy material activities that bring distress. Others, however, enchanted by lust, perform atonement to perform their sins, but again return to sinful activities. Since then, as soon as the Yamadutas see a devotee, they fear him and dare not look at him again. Agastya told me this confidential history at the Malaya Hills. So now we're going to begin. What is it? 1 second. Now we're beginning the Haṁsa-guhya prayers. Let me make this full screen. Chapter 4, the Haṁsa-guhya prayers. And what verse are we reading up to? Let me check just so that I know when to stop. 25, getting through a lot today. Chapter 4, the Haṁsa-guhya prayers. After Maharaj Parikshit appealed to Shukadeva Goswami to describe in further detail the creation of the living entities within this universe, Shukadeva Goswami informed him that when the Pracetās, the 10 sons of Prachina-Bharhi, entered the sea to execute austerities, the planet Earth was neglected because of the absence of a king. Naturally, many weeds and unnecessary trees grew, and no food grains were produced. Indeed, all the lands became like a forest. When the 10 Pracetās came out of the sea and saw that they saw the entire world full of trees, they were very angry with the trees and decided to destroy... Whoops, I'm on the wrong chapter. Oh no, I'm on the right chapter. Okay, it's the Pracetās again. Cool. So, when the 10 Pracetās came out of the sea and saw the entire world full of trees, they were very angry with the trees and decided to destroy them all to rectify the situation. Thus the Pracetās created wind and fire to burn the trees to ashes. Soma, however, the king of the moon and the king of all vegetation, forbade the Pracetās to destroy the trees, since the trees are the source of fruit and flowers for all living beings. Just to satisfy the Pracetās, Soma gave them a beautiful girl born of Pramlocha Apsara. By the semen of all the Pracetās, Dakṣa was born of that girl. Who the heck is calling me at this time? Should I answer it? No, I'm going to send a message. There. Okay. In the beginning, Dakṣa created all the demigods, demons, human beings. But when he found the population not increasing properly, he took sannyasa and went to Vindhya mountain, where he underwent severe austerities and offered Lord Vishnu a particular prayer known as Haṁsa-guhya, by which Lord Vishnu became very pleased with him. The contents of the prayer were as follows. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Supersoul, Lord Hari, is the controller of both the living entities and the material nature. He is self-sufficient and self-effulgent. As the subject matter of perception is not the cause of our perceiving senses, so the living entity, although within his body, does not cause his eternal friend, the Supersoul, who is the cause of creation of all the senses. Because of the living entity's ignorance, his senses are engaged with material objects. Since the living entity is alive, he can understand the creation of this material world to some extent, but he cannot understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is beyond the conception of the body, mind, and intelligence. Nevertheless, great sages who are always in meditation can see the personal form of the Lord within their hearts. Since an ordinary living being is materially contaminated, his words and intelligence are also material. Therefore, he cannot ascertain the Supreme Personality of Godhead by manipulating his material senses. The conception of God derived through the material senses is inaccurate, because the Supreme Lord is beyond the material senses. But when one engages his senses in devotional service, the eternal Supreme Personality of Godhead is revealed on the platform of the soul. When that Supreme Godhead becomes the aim of one's life, one is said to have attained spiritual knowledge. The Supreme Brahman is the cause of all causes, because he originally existed before the creation. He is the original cause of everything, both material and spiritual, and his existence is independent. However, the Lord has a potency called avidya, the illusory energy, which induces the false arguer to think himself perfect, and which induces the illusory energy to bewilder the conditioned soul. That Supreme Brahman, the Supersoul, is very affectionate to his devotees. To bestow mercy upon them, he discloses his form, name, attributes, and qualities to be worshipped within this material world. Unfortunately, however, those who are materially absorbed worship various demigods. As the air passes over a lotus flower and carries the scent of the flower with it, or as the air sometimes carries dust and therefore assumes colors, the Supreme Personality of Godhead appears as the various demigods according to the desires of his various foolish worshippers. But actually, he is the Supreme Truth, Lord Vishnu. To fulfill the desires of his devotees, he appears in various incarnations, and therefore the demigods. Being very satisfied by the prayers of Dakṣa, Lord Vishnu appeared before Dakṣa with 8 arms. The Lord was dressed in yellow garments and had a blackish complexion. Understanding that Dakṣa was very eager to follow the path of enjoyment, the Lord awarded him the potency to enjoy the illusory energy. The Lord offered him the daughter of Panchajana named Asikni, who is suitable for Maharaj Dakṣa to enjoy in sex. Indeed, Dakṣa received his name because he was very expert in sex life. After awarding this benediction, Lord Vishnu disappeared. I actually was spacing out while I was reading a lot of that. I'll have to read it again sometime. Anyways, we'll get there again. I'm supposed to write an article for Gaudiya Kirtan today, and so I'm just thinking of what I should write. Oh God, I have to focus. Alright, so there's a line missing there, so I'm reading from this. Text 1 to 2. Shirajavacha Devasura Nrinam Sargo Naganam Mrigapakshinam Samasikastvaya Prokto Yastu Svayam Bhuventare Tasaiva Vyasamichami Gyatum Te Bhagavan Yatha Anusargam Yaya Shaktya Sasarja Bhagavan Para. One second. Okay. The Blessed King said to Shukadeva Goswami, "My dear Lord, the demigods, demons, human beings, nagas, beasts, and birds were created during the reign of Swayambhuva Manu. You have spoken about this creation briefly in the 3rd canto. Now I wish to know about it elaborately. I also wish to know about the potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead by which He brought about the secondary creation." Wow, we're going all the way back there again. Shri Sutta Uvacha Iti samprashnamakarnya rajarshir bhadarayani pratinandhya mahayogi jagadha munisatama. Sutta Goswami said, "O great sages assembled at Naimisharanya, after the great yogi Shukadeva Goswami heard King Parikshit's inquiry, he praised it and thus replied." Shri Shuka Uvacha Yada Pracetasa Putra Dasha Prachina Barhisha Anta Samudrada Unmagna Dadrishur Gam Drumer Vritam. Shukadeva Goswami said, "When the 10 sons of Prachina Barhi emerged from the waters in which they were performing austerities, they saw that the entire surface of the world was covered by trees." Purport: When King Prachina Barhi was performing Vedic rituals in which the killing of animals was recommended, Narad Muni, out of compassion, advised him to stop. Prachina Barhi understood Narad properly, and then left the kingdom to perform austerities in the forest. His 10 sons, however, were performing austerities within the water, and therefore there was no king to see to the management of the world. When the 10 sons, the Pracetās, came out of the water, they saw that the earth was overrun with trees. When the government neglects agriculture, which is necessary for production of food, the land becomes covered with unnecessary trees. Of course, many trees are useful because they produce fruits and flowers, but many other trees are unnecessary. What about oxygen? They could be used as fuel and the land cleared and used for agriculture. When the government is negligent, less grain is produced. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 18, Shigo Rakshavanijam Vaishya Karma Subhavajam. The proper engagements for Vaishyas, according to their nature, are to farm and protect cows. The duty of the government and the Kshatriyas is to see that the members of the 3rd class, the Vaishyas, who are neither Brahmins nor Kshatriyas, are thus properly engaged. Kshatriyas are meant to protect human beings, whereas Vaishyas are meant to protect useful animals, especially cows. Drume vyakrudhyamanaste tapodipitaman mukhato vayam agnincha sasrijuštad didakshaya. Because of having undergone the long austerities in the water, the Pracetās were very angry at the trees. Desiring to burn them to ashes, they generated wind and fire from their mouths. Purport. Here the word tapodipita manyava indicates that persons who have undergone severe austerities, tapasya, are endowed with great mystic power, as evinced by the Pracetās, who created fire and wind from their mouths. Although devotees undergo severe austerity, tapasya, however, they are vimanyava, sadhava, which means that they are never angry. They are always decorated with good qualities. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam 3:25-21 states, Tatikshava karunika surida sarvadehinam ajatas shatrava shanta sadhava sadhubhushana. A sadhu, a devotee, is never angry. Actually, the real feature of devotees who undergo tapasya, austerity, is forgiveness. Although a Vaishnava has sufficient power in tapasya, he does not become angry when put into difficulty. If one undergoes tapasya but does not become a Vaishnava, however, one does not develop good qualities. For example, Hiranyakashipu and Ravan also performed great austerities, but they did so to demonstrate their demoniac tendencies. Vaishnavas must meet many opponents while preaching the glories of the Lord, but Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu recommends that they not become angry while preaching. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given this formula: Trunarapi sunichena tarorapi sahishrana amanina manadena kirtaniya sadahari. One should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than the straw in the street. One should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. Those engaged in preaching the glories of the Lord should be humbler than the grass and more tolerant than a tree. Then they can preach the glories of the Lord without difficulty. Tabhyam nirdhahyamanang stang tan upalabhya kurudvaha rajovacha mahan somo manyum prashamayan iva. My dear King Parikshit, when Soma, the king of the trees and predominating deity of the moon, saw the fire and wind burning all the trees to ashes, he felt great sympathy because he is the maintainer of all herbs and trees. To appease the anger of the Pracetās, Soma spoke as follows. Purport. It is understood from this verse that the predominating deity of the moon is the maintainer of all the trees and plants throughout the universe. It is due to the moonshine that trees and plants grow very luxuriantly. Therefore, how can we accept the so-called scientists, whose moon expeditions have informed us that there are no trees or vegetation on the moon? Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, Soma vriksha dishtata sa eva vrikshanam raja. Soma, the predominating deity of the moon, is the king of all vegetation. How can we believe that the maintainer of vegetation has no vegetation on his own planet? Na drumebhyo mahabhaga tinebhyo drogdhumarhata vivardayi shavo prajanam pataya smrita. O greatly fortunate ones, you should not kill these poor trees by burning them to ashes. Your duty is to wish the citizens, the prajas, all prosperity and to act as their protectors. Purport. It is indicated herein that the government or king has the duty of protecting not only the human beings, but all other living entities, including animals, trees, and plants. No living entity should be killed unnecessarily. Aho Prajapati Patir Bhagavan Harira Avyaya Vanaspatim Ushadhishcha Sasarjorjam Isham Vibhu. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Hari, is the master of all living entities, including all the Prajapatis, such as Lord Brahma. Because he is the all-pervading and indestructible master, he has created all these trees and vegetables as eatables for other living entities. Purport. Soma, the predominating deity of the moon, reminded the Pracetās that this vegetation had been created by the Lord of Lords to provide food for everyone. If the Pracetās tried to kill them off, their own subjects would also suffer, for trees are also required for food. Annam chara namachara hyapadha padacharinam ahasta hastayuktanam dvipadam chatushpada. By nature's arrangement, fruits and flowers are considered the food of insects and birds. Grass and other legless living entities are meant to be the food of four-legged animals like cows and buffalo. Animals that cannot use their front legs as hands are meant to be the food of animals like tigers, which have claws. And four-legged animals like deer and goats, as well as food grains, are meant to be the food of human beings. Purport. By nature's law, or the arrangement of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one kind of living entity is eatable by other living entities. As mentioned herein, Dvipadam Chatushpada, the four-legged animals, Chatushpada, as well as food grains, are eatables for human beings, who are two-legged, Dvipadam. These four-legged animals are those such as deer and goats, not cows, which are meant to be protected. Generally, the men of the higher classes of society, the Brahmins, Kshatriyas, and Vaishyas, do not eat meat. Sometimes, Kshatriyas go to the forest to kill animals like deer because they have to learn the art of killing, and sometimes they eat the animals also. Shudras too eat animals such as goats. Cows, however, are never meant to be killed or eaten by human beings. In every Shastra, cow killing is vehemently condemned. Indeed, one who kills a cow must suffer as many years as there are hairs on the body of a cow. Manu Samhita says, Pravritir esha bhutanam nivrittis tu mahaphala. We have many tendencies in this material world, but in human life, one is meant to learn how to curb those tendencies. Those who desire to eat meat may simply satisfy the demands of their tongue by eating lower animals, but they should never kill cows, who are actually accepted as the mothers of human society because they supply milk. The Shastra especially recommends Krishi Go Rakshya. The Vaishya section of humanity should arrange for the food of the entire society through agricultural activities and should give full protection to the cows, which are the most useful animals because they supply milk to human society. I just saw on Facebook yesterday that cow slaughter and not cow slaughter, cow meat is like beef is banned from Mathura completely. So it's illegal. It's actually illegal to sell. Was it just cow meat or is it just all meat in general? I think it might have been all meat in general. Yeah, it's meat. Meat is completely banned from Mathura. Yuyam chapitran vadishta deva devena cha nagha praja sargaya hi katang vrikshan nirdagdumar arhata. O pure hearts, your father Prachina-Bharhi and the Supreme Personality of Godhead have ordered you to generate population. Therefore, how can you burn to ashes these trees and herbs, which are needed for the maintenance of your subjects and descendants. Atishtata satam margam kopam yachata dipitam pitra pitam mahenapi jushtam va prapita mahai. The path of goodness traversed by your father, grandfather, and great-grandfathers is that of maintaining the subjects, the prajas, including the men, animals, and trees. That is the path you should follow. Unnecessary anger is contrary to your duty. Therefore, I request you to control your anger. Purport. Here the words Pitra Pitam Mehanapi Jushtam Va Pratipa Mahai depict an honest royal family consisting of the kings, their father, their grandfather, and their great-grandfathers. Such a royal family has a prestigious position because it maintains the citizens, or prajas. The word praja refers to one who has taken birth within the jurisdiction of the government. The exalted royal families were conscious that all living beings, whether human, animal, or lower than animal, should be given protection. The modern democratic system cannot be exalted in this way because the leaders elected strive only for the power and have no sense of responsibility. In a monarchy, a king with a prestigious position follows the great deeds of his forefathers. Thus, Soma, the king of the moon, here reminds the Pracetās about the glories of their father, grandfather, and great-grandfathers. Tokanam pitaro bandhu drishya pakshma sriya pati pati prajanam bhikshunam grehya jnanam buddha surit. As the father and mother are the friends and maintainers of their children, as the eyelid is the protector of the eye, as the husband is the maintainer and protector of a woman, as the householder is the maintainer and protector of beggars, and as the learned is the friend of the ignorant, so the king is the protector and giver of life to all his subjects. The trees are also subjects of the king. Therefore, they should be given protection. Purport. By the supreme will of the personality of Godhead, there are various protectors and maintainers for helpless living entities. The trees are also considered prajas, subjects of the king, and therefore the duty of the monarch is to protect even the trees, not to speak of others. The king is duty-bound to protect the living entities in his kingdom. Thus, although the parents are directly responsible for the protection and maintenance of their children, the duty of the king is to see that all parents do not do their duty properly. Similarly, the king is also responsible for overseeing the other protectors mentioned in this verse. It may also be noted that the beggars who should be maintained by the householders are not professional beggars, but sannyasis and brahmins, to whom the householders should supply food and clothing. Antardeheshu bhutanam atmaste haririshvara sarvam tadishnamikshavtvam evam vastoshito hyaso. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is situated as the Supersoul within the cores of the hearts of all living entities, whether moving or non-moving, including men, birds, animals, trees, and indeed, all living entities. Therefore, you should consider every body a residence or temple of the Lord. By such vision, you will satisfy the Lord. You should not angrily kill these living entities in the forms of trees. Purport. As stated in Bhagavad Gita and confirmed by all the Vedic scriptures, Ishvara sarva bhutanam hridesharjuna tishtati. It's Bhagavad Gita 1861. The Supersoul is situated within everyone's heart. Therefore, since everyone's body is the residence of the Supreme Lord, one should not destroy the body because of unnecessary envy. That will dissatisfy the Supersoul. Soma told the Pracetās that because they had tried to satisfy the Supersoul, now they should not displease him. Ya samutpatitan deha akashan manyumulbanam atma jigyasaya yachet sa gunan ativartate. One who inquires into self-realization and thus subdues his powerful anger, which awakens suddenly in the body as if falling from the sky, transcends the influence of the modes of material nature. Purport. When one becomes angry, he forgets himself and his situation. But if one is able to consider his situation by knowledge, one transcends the influence of the modes of material nature. One is always a servant of lusty desires, anger, greed, illusion, envy, and so forth. But if one obtains sufficient strength and spiritual advancement, one can control them. One who abandons such control will always be transcendently situated, untouched by the modes of material nature. This is only possible when one fully engages in the service of the Lord, as the Lord says in Bhagavad Gita 14:26. Mam chayo vyabhicharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samatityaitan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. There's a word missing. One who engages in full devotional service, who does not fall down in any circumstance, at once transcends the modes of material nature and thus comes to the spiritual platform. By engaging one in devotional service, the Krishna consciousness movement keeps one always transcendental to anger, greed, lust, envy, and so forth. One must perform devotional service because otherwise one will become victimized by the modes of material nature. Alam dagder drumer dinai kilanam shivamastuva Varkshi hesha varakanya patnitve pratigriyatam. There is no need to burn these poor trees any longer. Let whatever trees still remain and be happy. Let whatever trees still remain be happy. Is there a word missing? Oh yeah, there is. No, it's anyways, whatever. Let whatever trees still remain be happy. Okay, that makes sense. God, I don't know why that was making sense. Sorry about that, guys. I'm a little bit spacey right now. Indeed, you should also be happy. Now here is a beautiful, well-qualified girl named Māriṣā, who is raised by the trees as their daughter. You may accept this beautiful girl as your wife. Ityamantra vararoham kanyam apsarasim nripa Soma raja yayodhatva te dharme no paye mire. Shukadeva Goswami continued, My dear king, after thus pacifying the Pracetās, Soma, the king of the moon, gave them a beautiful girl born of Pramlocha Apsara. The Pracetās all received Pramlocha's daughter, who had high, very beautiful hips, and married her according to the religious system. Devyastasyam samar pavad Dakṣa Pracetasa kila Yasya praja visargena loka apuritastraya. In the womb of that girl, the Pracetās all begot a son named Dakṣa, who filled the three worlds with living entities. Purport. Dakṣa was first born during the reign of Swayambhuva Manu, but because of offending Lord Shiva, he was punished by having the head of a goat substituted for his own head. Thus insulted, he had to give up that body in the sixth Manvantar called the Chakshusha Manvantar, and he was born from the womb of Māriṣā as Dakṣa. In this connection, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur quotes this verse: Chakshushe tantare prapte praksarge kalavsarja praja ishta sa daksho daivachodita. His previous body had been destroyed, but he, the same Dakṣa, inspired by the supreme will, created all the desired living entities in the Chakshusha Manvantar. So Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam 4:30-49. Thus Dakṣa regained his previous opulence and again begot thousands and millions of children to fill the three worlds. Yata sasarja bhutani daksho duhritrivatsala retasa manasa chaiva tan mama vahita shrinu. Shukadeva Goswami continued, "Please hear from me with great attention how Prajapati Dakṣa, who was very affectionate to his daughters, created different types of living entities through his semen, through his mind, and through his mind." The word Duhitri Vatsala indicates that all the prajas were born from Daksha's daughters. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that apparently Daksha had no son. Interesting. Wait, what? He had no son? So he just gave birth to like innumerable daughters? Manasaiva sirjat purvam prajapatir ima praja devasura manushadin navastala jalokasa. With his mind, Prajapati Daksha first created all kinds of demigods, demons, human beings, birds, beasts, aquatics, and so on. Tam abrimhit tamlo alokya prajasargam prajapati vindhyapadan upavrajya sochara dushkaram tapa. But when Prajapati Daksha saw that he was not properly generating all kinds of living entities, he approached a mountain near the Vindhya mountain range, and there he executed very difficult austerities. Tatra ghamashanam nama tirtam papa haram param upasprisyanusavanam tapasato dharin. Near that mountain was a very holy place named Agamarshana. There, Prajapati Daksha executed ritualistic ceremonies and satisfied the Supreme Personality of Godhead Hari by engaging in great austerities to please him. Asto shiv Haṁsa-guhyena bhagavantam adokshajam tuvyam tad abhidhasyami kasyat tusharyata Hari. My dear king, I shall fully explain to you the Haṁsa-guhya prayers, which were offered by the Supreme Personality of Godhead by Dakṣa, and I shall explain how the Lord was pleased with him for those prayers. Purport. It is to be understood that the Haṁsa-guhya prayers were not composed by Dakṣa, but were existing in the Vedic literature. Shri Prajapatir Uvacha Nama Paraya Vitatanubhutaye Gunatraya Bhasa Nimitta Bandhave Adrishta Dhamne Guha Aguna Tattva Buddhivir Nivrittamanaya Tate Swayam Bhuve. Prajapati Daksha said, "The Supreme Personality of Godhead is transcendental to the illusory energy and the physical categories it produces. He possesses the potency for unfailing knowledge and supreme willpower, and he is the controller of the living entities and the illusory energy. The conditioned souls who have accepted this material manifestation as everything cannot see him, for he is above the evidence of experimental knowledge. Self-evident and self-sufficient, he is not caused by any superior cause. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto him." Purport. The transcendental position of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is explained herewith. He is not perceivable by the conditioned souls, who are accustomed to material vision and cannot understand that the Supreme Personality of Godhead exists in his abode, which is beyond that vision. Even if a materialistic person could count all the atoms in the universe, he would still be unable to understand the Supreme, as confirmed in Brahma Samhita 534. Pantastu kotishata vatsara sampragamya vayoratapi manaso munipungavaanam sopyasti yat praparasim navachinta tattve govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. The conditioned souls may try to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead for many billions of years through their mental speculative processes, traveling at the speed of the mind or the wind. But still, the absolute truth will remain inconceivable to them because a materialistic person cannot measure the length and breadth of the Supreme Personality of Godhead's unlimited existence. If the absolute truth is beyond measurement, one may ask, how can one realize him then? The answer is given here by the word Swayambhuve. One may understand him or not, but nevertheless, he is existing in his own spiritual potency. Nayasta sakyam purusho vaiti sakyo sakam vasant savasata puradehismin guno yata gunanino vyakta drishtes tasmai maheshaya namaskaromi. As the sense objects, form, taste, touch, smell, and sounds, cannot understand how the senses perceive them, so the conditioned soul, although residing in his body along with the supersoul, cannot understand how the Supreme Spiritual Person, the Master of the creation, directs his senses. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto that Supreme Person, who is the Supreme Controller. Purport. The individual soul and the Supreme Soul live together within the body. This is confirmed in the Upanishads by the analogy that two friendly birds live in one tree, one bird eating the fruit of the tree, and the other simply witnessing and directing. Although the individual living being, who is compared to the bird that is eating, is sitting with his friend, the Supreme Soul, the individual living being cannot see him. Actually, the Supersoul is directing the workings of his senses and enjoyment of sense objects. But as these sense objects cannot see the senses, the conditioned soul cannot see the directing soul. The conditioned soul has desires, and the Supreme Soul fulfills them. But the conditioned soul is unable to see the Supreme Soul. Thus, Prajapati Dakṣa offers his obeisances to the Supreme Soul, the Super Soul, even though unable to see him. Another example is given that although ordinary citizens work under the direction of the government, they cannot understand how they are being governed or what the government is. In this regard, Madhvacharya quotes the following verse from the Skanda Puran: Yata ragya priyatvam tu Vrityavedena chatmana tato jivo nayat sakyam veti tasmai namostute. As the various servants in the different departments of big establishments cannot see the Supreme Managing Director under whom they are working, the conditioned souls cannot see the Supreme Friend sitting within their bodies. Let us therefore offer our respectful obeisances unto the Supreme, who is invisible to our material eyes. Okay, we're ending with this verse here. Deho savokshamanavo bhuttamatram atmanamanyam chavidu param yat sarvam pumam veda gunash chatajgyo na veda sarva gyam ananta ide. We're ending with this verse here. Because they are only matter, the body, the life airs, the external and internal senses, the five gross elements, and the subtle sense objects, form, taste, smell, sound, and touch, cannot know their own nature. They cannot know their own nature, the nature of other senses, or the nature of their controllers. But the living being, because of his spiritual nature, can know his body and the life airs and the senses, the elements, and the sense objects, and he can also know the three qualities that form their roots. Nevertheless, although the living being is completely aware of them, he is unable to see the Supreme Being, who is omniscient and unlimited. I therefore offer my respectful obeisances unto him. Purport. Material scientists can make an analytical study of the physical elements, the body, and the senses. The side that controls the vital force. Material scientists can make an analytical study of the physical elements, the body, the senses, the sense objects, and even the air that controls the vital force. But still, they cannot understand that above all these is the real spirit soul. In other words, the living entity, because of his spirit soul, the living entity, because of being a spirit soul, can understand all the material objects, or, when self-realized, he can understand the Paramatma, upon whom yogis meditate. Nevertheless, the living being, even if advanced, cannot understand the Supreme Being, the personality of Godhead, for he is Ananta, unlimited, in all 6 qualities. Alright. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol. जय श्री श्री गुरु गौरांग गिरिधारी श्री श्री राधा विनोद बिहारी जो की जय, श्री गोविंद गोपीनाथ मरण मोहन जो की जय, नितिल विष्णु विष्णुपाद अश्वतर शतस्मर शिल भक्ति वेदांत नारायण गोसाई महाराज शिल गुरुदेव की जय, नितिल विष्णु विष्णुपाद अश्वतर शतस्मर शिल भक्ति वेदांत साई महाराज शिल प्रभुपाद की जय, नितिल विष्णु विष्णुपाद अश्वतर शतस्मर शिल भक्ति प्रज्ञान केशव गोसाई महाराज की जय, नितिल विष्णु विष्णुपाद अश्वतर शतस्मर शिल भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोसाई प्रभुपाद की जय, नितिल विष्णु महाभागवत शिल गोक्षरस बाबूजी महाराज की जय, नितिल विष्णु शिल सच्चिदानंद भक्ति विनोद ठाकुर की जय, नितिल विष्णु वैष्णव सार्वभौम शिल जगन्नाथ दास बाबूजी महाराज की जय, श्री रूप नो गौरिया गुरु वर्ग की जय, श्री रूप सनातन भट्ट रघुनाथ श्री जीव गोपाल भट्टदास रघुनाथ शारद गोसाई प्रभु की जय, श्री स्वरूप दामोदर राय रामानंद आदि श्री गौर प्रसाद वृंद की जय, नाम अक्षय श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की जय, प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासरी गौर भक्त वृंद की जय, श्री क्षेत्र मंडल गौर मंडल ब्रज मंडल मथुरा वृंदावन धाम की जय, सर्व अभिष्ट प्रदात गिरिराज महाराज की जय, श्री राधा कुंड श्याम कुंड की जय, श्री यमुना देवी गंगा देवी की जय, श्री तुलसी महारानी वृंद देवी की जय, श्री भक्ति देवी की जय, श्री पूर्णमासी योगमाया की जय, श्री गोपेश्वर महादेव की जय, श्री हरि नाम संकीर्तन की जय, अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय, समागत गौर भक्त वृंद की जय, श्री निताई गो श्री अनंत एकादशी तिथि की जय, एकादशी तिथि पालन करी भक्त वृंद की जय, श्री हरि नाम संकीर्तन की जय, अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय, श्री निताई गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि गो वृंदाय श्री वाय प्रियाय केशव कृष्ण भक्ति परदेवी सत्यवताय नमो नमः पंचकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। दंडवत प्रणाम everybody. हरि बोल।